Very warm welcome to Adam Reddish from the Cats Whiskers Podcast. Thanks very much for joining me, Adam, tonight. We're going to do a wee preview of the game on Sunday between the Clan and the Nottingham Panthers. How are you doing?
I'm good, thanks, Callie. Yeah, not too bad. Great that hockey's back underway, isn't it? And it's started to sort of bring back a bit more normality to life. And because we went through quite a spell there without any hockey. So it's good that it's coming back.
Definitely. I mean, at the Clan, we've only really seen a couple of games. We've a pre-season game down in Solway that I attended. Yeah. Then we had a game over in Belfast where we narrowly went down 3-2. But it was good to see, as you say, ice hockey again. Tell us a bit more about yourself, because I know you're obviously involved in the Cats Whiskers. And what's your sort of background, Adam?
Well, I mean, I've been a hockey fan since probably... longer than I care to remember. Probably since it's about 93, 94. That was when my first hockey game was at the old rink in Nottingham on Lower Parliament Street. And I mean, I'd always been interested in hockey. I as a child, used to sort of watch the grandstand programmes on Saturday afternoon when they'd generally be Murrayfield or Durham or Whitley or, Panthers would feature as well quite frequently. So, that sort of got me hooked. And then... Paul Baum, who is part of the Cats Whiskers crew. He's my uncle, and he married my aunt, and his family were massive Panthers fans. So and that was around that time as well. So it was sort of a good fit, really. And I started to go to a few games back then, and was able to see live hockey rather than just experience it on the television. So it sort of all fell into place, and I've been a fan ever since. So I've seen us in the old building, and I've seen us in the new building now, although I've watched Panthers for a lot longer in the new building than the old building, which is quite a scary thing.
I mean, it's one of these things, Adam, and I was similar to you, that I went to a game and with the family, and I really just got hooked on it. It wasn't, prior to that, I was more a football fan. I'd go to all the football games. In fact, I missed. I live a few miles from Ayr, and obviously the Ayr Scottish Eagles was a big ice hockey team back in the day. I missed all that era because I followed my local football team rather than going to ice hockey. And my pals kept saying to me, "Look, come to the ice hockey." I never really got around to it, but one night I went along to Braehead, just for something to do, and I really enjoyed it. So, a bit like yourself, I've not been involved so long as yourself, but I got so hooked like yourself over the years.
Yeah, it's a very addictive sport. I mean, I've lost count of the number of people that, I know that have been for a game who, aren't ice hockey fans. They're not really, knowledgeable about the sport or anything other than that there's actually a team in Nottingham and they go along for a game and they really enjoy it. And, not everyone comes back and becomes a season ticket holder or goes to game after game, but, it just helps with the recognition of ice hockey in the city. And, when I think about when I was younger, Panthers, it was really difficult to get a ticket because it was a small rink, only held about 2,800 people, and it'd often be full. So getting a ticket wasn't always easy. Obviously, that changed with the arena. A lot more seats, a lot more tickets to sell, and it was a bit of a slow burn for the Panthers because the first 3 or 4 seasons weren't particularly great in the new building. And crowds, gently nudged up in the right direction. And, now it's, quite commonplace for a Saturday night game that doesn't involve Sheffield to still draw, 5,500 fans. So, I think it's, fair to say, very valid to say that Nottingham is a really sort of ardent ice hockey city.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen obviously in Glasgow, we've got the 2 big teams in Glasgow, and obviously there's other teams there as well. But have you found over the years that the ice hockey, obviously you've got a couple of teams in Nottingham as well. Have you found over the years that ice hockey has become less of a minority sport there? And, there's more fans coming away from football into ice hockey?
Absolutely. And I think geography is helpful as well because the football clubs aren't really a million miles away from the NIC. So, you just have to walk up one road essentially from Trent Bridge, where the 2 football grounds are, and you find yourself at the bottom of the hill where the NIC is. So I know a lot of fans. I mean, I'm a Notts County fan, Notts County season ticket holder. So many of my Saturdays involve going to watch Notts in the afternoon, and then have a little walk up into town, and it's only 10-15 minutes away. and it's there on your doorstep. So, and you look around the arena on game nights and you see fans there with replica shirts from Notts County or Nottingham Forest, and I think that hockey Nottingham certainly plays out in front of a very diverse demographic, which is great because it's always been a family orientated sport in this country. And, I've sort of grown up as well, seeing people of my age sort of bring their children along, and then, the older generations as well are still there. So it's, it sort of spans and sweeps the different generations, and it's great to see. Yeah, it really is.
No, definitely. I mean, I see your average crowds off the EIHL website around about 3,500 to 4,000 this season, which is fantastic after coming back off of, you say, the pandemic. How have you found ice hockey post-pandemic? Has there been much of a change or much of a difference in feeling from it?
Not really. I suppose you could argue about the quality of the league this year might not be quite as high as it was pre-pandemic, but then obviously I think budgets are probably a little bit smaller this year from all of the clubs, just because of the financial pressures and the hit that they took through the pandemic. But it does feel like things are getting back to normal. The crowds are holding up okay. They're probably, like you say, a little bit down on where you'd expect them to be. But it's early days, and there's still probably a lot of people that are still nervous and reluctant to come back into an enclosed space, with several thousand other people that they don't know or don't necessarily socialise with. So, hopefully over time, and as the COVID pandemic eases and, we get more back to normality, those that might be a bit reluctant will return, and those crowds will get back to how they were pre-pandemic.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, you've had the advantage that Panthers started a bit earlier in the season. You had the Elite Series, which you'd already won, actually, around about May time. Obviously, as Clan fans, we've seen very little ice hockey. So, obviously, looking forward in terms of the Panthers, you've had a reasonably decent start to the season. You've been pretty strong in the league, about third in the league at the moment, with some games in hand over Steelers, who sit top, and Guildford in second place. Pretty strong in the Challenge Cup. What's your views of how you've found the Panthers start to the season? What's your thoughts on that?
I think it's been good, all things being considered. It doesn't feel like we've particularly played brilliantly or pulled any trees up and are going all guns blazing, because for every good win there's been the odd bad result as well thrown in, which has maybe killed some of the momentum and the progress that we've made. But I think it's been I suppose you call it a business-like start to the season. There's no airs or graces about the Panthers this year. I think we're a lot more workmanlike than previous years, and I think that's sort of the team ethic that Tim Wallace as coach has sort of introduced onto the playing roster. Look, I think you can be out of contention early in the season, but you can't win the league early in the season. So it's good for us that we're still up there. I always find that this stage of a season is very difficult to sort of gauge where teams are at, because there's a big disparity in the number of games that the teams have played in the league, what with the Challenge Cup being around, and it's Sheffield are top, but they've played a ton more league games than other clubs. Sure. So it's difficult to sort of work out what the level playing field is at this stage. Although, if you look at wins and losses, thankfully for Panthers, there's more in the W column than the L column. And although the worst one that we had this year, I think, was the home shutout debacle from Belfast, which was captured on TV as well for Premier Sports, which thankfully me and my partner Tina, who's also part of the Cats Whiskers, we were self-isolating that night because we had the pinged text message earlier in that day, so we were spared the horror of it actually being there in person, but we watched the horror from the living room sofa on Premier Sports.
Yeah, I mean, I think, to be fair though, Adam, there's been a lot of really crazy results, hasn't there? There's been teams winning convincingly one night and the next night getting hammered. It seems to be a lot of ups and downs. I don't know why that is, but
it's a roller coaster. I think it's a very open league. I think the teams are probably of an equal or an even standard. Look, I mean, there could well be a team or two that stretch away, and now is normally the time where if a team is going to go away and win the league at a canter, that they put a strong run together of 10, 12 consecutive victories and just break the back of the rest of the league. I don't really think that's going to happen this year for the reason that you said. It's everyone's beating everybody else. It looks like a very level playing field in terms of quality. And I know none of us are privy to what teams are spending on the players, but I think there's probably there's a clear difference between maybe the arena teams, as there normally is, and the rink-based teams in terms of what's being spent on players. But it's. I mean, look, I enjoy open leagues because there's nothing worse, I think, for the sort of stature and status of the game in this country. If you're getting the one team every year winning the league at a canter, I think that's probably bad. So the competitiveness this year, I think, is noticeable. And as you say, there's just big booms and busts because a team will pull out a great performance one night and then follow it up with a really bad showing. And I suppose, I know it's a bit of a cliche, but the team that will win the league is probably the one that displays the greatest level of consistency over the course of the season.
Definitely. I mean, obviously, your recruitment side is absolutely crucial. We had Guy Doucette played with us in the 18-19 season. He was superb, but then obviously moved down to Panthers, and I think he's more in a recruitment role down there. How do you think he's done since he's moved to the Panthers?
Yeah, well, I think his title's director of hockey, so he sort of he's off ice, but he supports the work of Tim Wallace. I suppose you could say he's the link between Tim Wallace and the management and the ownership. I mean, it was interesting because I wasn't aware that he'd had any sort of previous experience in a role like that before he came to the Panthers. I mean, there's been times in the last 3 years where I think a few fans have wished that he'd put on the skates again and score some goals for us because he was a real sniper of a forward when he was playing. But it's still probably a new role for him, even though he's been in it for a while now. It's one of those positions where I think you learn on the job. He might have close people that he knows from his sort of circle of friends in hockey that might be giving him advice. But you hope someone like a director of hockey has got a very deep and extensive contacts book, because that's where his role will come into its own. If we need to pick up a couple of players at short notice, if he's got an extensive range of contacts, then that's something that he can help facilitate. But he generally keeps a fairly low presence and profile, from my opinion. The fans might have a different opinion on that, but he doesn't seem to hog the limelight, and he just goes about his work fairly diligently, away from the limelight of what's going on the ice. But I suppose really for a director of hockey, you just need to do everything you can to support the coach and what he needs to get a winning team. Yeah,
definitely. And moving on to recruitment, how do you feel the Panthers have recruited this season? Has there been any key players that you've seen come in? There's a couple of names that keep jumping up when I look at the stats. Ollie Betcher's having another good season again. But you're probably better placed to tell me what your thoughts on the roster this season. What's the players you'd like to see?
Well, there was some continuity because we had a few forwards indeed play in the Elite Series. And we've retained them into the actual main regular Elite season. I think it'd be fair to say that there's probably no stars on the roster. There's nobody that stands out and is what you might call a franchise player or a marquee player. As I said, towards the start of this, I think Tim Wallace has got a team of grafters this year. Solid, slightly unspectacular, but they've all got each other's back and they all work really hard. And I think that's one thing that you can't really level at the Panthers this year, unlike previous seasons where there's always been 2 or 3 coasters perhaps on the roster that fans can see you've got more to give, but just won't put it in game out. I don't think there's a player like that on the roster this year, and I think that's probably a mindset thing really with Guy Doucette and Tim Wallace. I think they want a hard skating team, and I think the recruitment has sort of fitted that mold really. So no real stars on the roster, but you just mentioned in there, Ollie Betteridge this year has really sort of stepped up his game. I think before he was always noticeable for the hard graft and the energy levels that he'd display, game after game, even if we were losing 4 or 5-0, it'd always be better he's going out there trying to spark something and make things happen. Well, this year, he's taken it to another level, and not only are you getting the energy and the sort of drive shift after shift, but you're also getting more offense and more goals production from him, which is a side of his game that until this season fans hadn't really seen. So he's sort of carried the team on a couple of occasions this year where he's really led from the front. But having someone with that sort of mentality and work ethic is infectious, and I'm sure the other guys on the roster probably see that and think, well, we're going to follow suit, and we're going to go all in on this, and really leave everything out there on the ice.
Yeah, it's interesting you say that about the Panthers, because I think it's a similar format for the Clan this season. We brought in a new coach in Malcolm Cameron. We hear the same kind of words: hard-working team, leaving everything on the ice. We've got a lot of guys that probably not standout players by the looks of it in early stages, but a hard-working team by the looks of it. So it will be interesting to see. And I suppose if you've got Neil Black, the ownership, he's probably filtering that down. He wants to see similar kind of mentality in both teams.
Yeah, I think so. I think that's a fair comment. There's always been that sort of dispute about how much attention Neil Black gives to one or the other or both. But I think obviously, as you might want to pick up on later, there's been trying times in Glasgow over the last year or so with all the sort of uncertainty and the unpredictability. So, it's great that Glasgow are obviously still around and things have been sorted out in that regard. But in terms of ownership, look, I mean, I think one of the things, just going back to Guy Doucet, Neil Black probably wants Guy Doucet to be the sort of the main man, that's running things on the ground. Yeah. So he might have, taken a step back and, wants to be a bit more distant for whatever reason. And it's working okay for the Panthers. But, in terms of Glasgow, it's very early days. We haven't really seen much of Glasgow, and even you guys up there in Glasgow haven't seen much of your own team yet. No. So I mean, I don't really know that many people on the roster for Glasgow, because I think it's largely a new team, isn't it? With very, very few returnees from previous seasons. So I suppose everyone's left guessing a little bit about what Clan's main strengths are. Will it be flair, will it be finesse, or will it be sort of that good old fashioned grinding hockey where everybody gives 110% every shift?
Yeah, I'm expecting a lot of hard grinding hockey. I think we have a few skillful players. Colton Yellowhorn has impressed me with a bit of skill. He's played right across Europe in Champions Hockey League. Guys like Dyson Stevenson have come in and been made captain, scored a goal in Belfast, and again, a guy that seems to lead from the front, but it's probably too early to pick names out. Colin Campbell as well is another guy that looks like highly skilled, but it's difficult again until we see how guys settle in. You'll obviously know Matthew Waugh well. Have you heard of him?
Oh, yeah. Mainly for his Sheffield connections. He wasn't the most liked Sheffield player. Not that many Sheffield players are liked in Nottingham, but I think there's probably a little bit of envy as well with his goal scoring record, because he really is the definition of a sniper, isn't he? He puts great goal numbers up year after year, and I think those sorts of players are like gold dust, really. If you can get your hands on one, then they can really drive the offense from a team for a whole year. So, but honourable mention, I think, for Liam Stenton as well, who the Cats Whiskers sponsored when he was down here playing for the Panthers in the Elite Series. So it'd be interesting to see how Liam goes this year, and I'm sure my fellow Cats Whiskers colleagues and compadres will be interested to see how he fares across the season, and hopefully he gets a reasonable amount of ice time.
Let's hope so. It's certainly a very promising player for sure. And we've got a few Scottish players in the roster as well. Harry Ferguson, who's with MK Lightning. Rhys Cochrane is another one that's came in and looks good. Previously at Fife Flyers, so it's good to see young Scottish talent, getting a chance. That's just a couple of names I've mentioned there. Maybe moving back to Glasgow, we've obviously had issues off the ice, which has resulted in a delay to the season for the Clan and missing out on the Challenge Cup. Obviously, looking from a Nottingham perspective, what did you make of that? Obviously, we've now seen a long-term lease, Braehead. What was your thoughts? And do you think Clan could go on to become one of the forces in the future based upon other income streams they can maybe get from the arena?
Yeah, I can't see why that's not possible. I mean, I'm sure, myself and lots of other hockey fans around the country were, sympathetic towards Glasgow's plight because, it was a situation not of your own making, with Into going under. It sort of left you high and dry, really, in terms of the ownership of the arena. So, I think, firstly, it's great to see it resolved because, I know Glasgow isn't an old organisation in terms of, decades and decades of hockey, but, the time that you've been around, Glasgow's made a real impact, not only in British ice hockey, but also, to give Glasgow another really good sporting organisation. So I'm sure there was a lot of people worried, as was I, that if that wasn't resolved in terms of the ownership of the arena, that we'd see a very, very good elite league club go to the wall, and that would really knock the stuffing out of ice hockey in Scotland, and also have ramifications across the rest of the UK as well. So it's brilliant to see the situation stabilised in Glasgow, and it gives the organisation that long-term platform to build on, and obviously, as you say, revenues that come into the club now that are captured through the arena, that they can be sort of reinvested back into the organisation. So I think it could be the start of a really, really promising era for the Clan, and you get good crowds up there. It's a very loyal fan base. It's always a noisy arena. Whenever we've been from Nottingham, it's we've had some good games with yourselves, and I always enjoy going up to the arena. Maybe some of the internal layout situation of the arena isn't the best or the most optimal, but that's by the by. I mean, you've got a good venue there to watch hockey from, and that's the main thing. So I think going forwards, I mean, the one observation I would make is that I think Glasgow as an arena team are probably the one that have yet to sort of dominate like other arena teams have done in the Elite League. And, maybe this is a start of, a prolonged period of time. It's effectively a new slate in terms of what's going on behind the scenes with the ownership of the arena and all that. So, there's nothing to sort of stop. I knew I'd say Braehead at one point. I knew it. Force of habit. Apologies. There's nothing to stop Glasgow from, really exerting, some influence on the Elite League and becoming big players in terms of, being there at the shakedown for the Elite League or, the playoffs or the Challenge Cup. And, it's all about stability, isn't it, British ice hockey? Because we've seen so much turmoil over a number of years now that, there was, I think, genuine fears that Glasgow might disappear from British ice hockey for a while. But happily, that's not the case.
Yeah, I mean, I see it as massive opportunity for the Clan. I don't think things are going to happen overnight, Adam. To be honest, it's going to take time, and there's going to have to be probably a bit of investment placed in the arena to maybe upgrade hospitality facilities, etc. But we're also making a few key recruitments now around sort of marketing, admin, which I think is important, building blocks to become a bigger organisation over time. But I'm quite happy this season to see ice hockey back in Glasgow. I think we can consolidate ourselves this season. I'm expecting over the next 2, 3, 4 seasons to see Clan go forward quite significantly. The opportunities will be there, but as you and I know, you need a bit of luck as well.
Absolutely.
So hopefully we'll be able to have the opportunity to move forward. Looking forward to Sunday's game. I just noticed today that your game has been postponed against Coventry on Saturday night. So that gives you guys another day of rest prior to us coming to Nottingham on Sunday. What's your thoughts on the game on Sunday? Obviously, the Panthers had a few games, kind of had one game. What kind of key players do you expect to see coming forward from the Nottingham side on Sunday? And what's your thoughts about the game?
Yeah, it'll be interesting. I mean, it's regrettable that the game in Coventry has been cancelled because I think of ice plant problems. They can't find a replacement part that they need to get the ice plant up and running again. But just the one game for us this weekend. I'm not really a fan of one game weekends. I know it's not really an issue of our making because it's a problem for Coventry to fix. But we might be a bit rusty. I think when you've played two games and the Sunday, if you've won the Saturday game, you take confidence in, and that the players can sort of skate a bit freer and put a good performance in. But it's interesting because the Clan are coming down. First game in the Nottingham Arena this season. I'm sure you want to acquit yourself well, and some of the players will, I'm sure, like the surroundings, and it's always a nice place to play ice hockey. And I'm sure they'll fancy the chances. I know a lot of people saw your result against Belfast, a few days ago, and were really pleasantly surprised by how close the game was, and how much you pushed Giants there, and nearly got something out of that game. So I'm sure your guys were just desperate and itching to play after quite a prolonged sort of pre-season of training camp, because I know quite a lot of your players have been in the country for a while now, but it's training's one thing, but getting out onto the ice and doing what you're paid to do is quite a different thing, really. And if Glasgow are inspired by playing in the arena on Sunday, because there's so many new players on your roster that won't have encountered the arena before then. It probably bodes well for you guys, and I'm sure that you'll be backed by a few fans as well. And the Glasgow players will probably look over and see a band of Clan fans up there, and no doubt they'll want to make their efforts worthwhile by at least putting in a good performance. Things can happen during the course of a game. You don't always get the look you deserve, and it might be that you put a really good performance in, but you come away with nothing. Them's the breaks. Sometimes that happens, and we've all been on receiving end of that. So I think that Clan have got as good a chance. Having pushed Belfast close, I think that's a bit of a warning shot to other teams that the Clan are going to face over the next few weeks, that Clan aren't just going to be pushovers because they've had a delayed start. If anything, you guys are going to be fresh. That the injuries are probably already starting to accumulate on those teams that have been playing from the start of the season. You have to look at Dundee. I think their roster's been decimated, and I think they finished their game against Giants of the night with 10 skaters. So, it's, if nothing else, Clan are going to be fresh. But it's whether they've got that sort of that game conditioning that playing matches that brings.
I'm looking forward to it. It's a difficult one to call. I expected Clan to struggle in Belfast, coming off of just one pre-season warm-up game, but they pleasantly surprised me. But as you say, sometimes just a change of coach, a change of players that don't come in with certain expectations can actually work in your favour, because we've always struggled in Belfast. I think we lost 42 goals in 8 games prior to that game, and you always go in with that mindset. But if you guys come in who have not had that mindset and are coming in fresh and want to show what they can do, so I'm looking forward to a good game, on Sunday, and may the best team win on the day. Just a couple of other things just to finish off on. The teams you've seen this season in terms of League and Challenge Cup, is there any teams that have impressed you, or has it been pretty much a muchness, as you've said earlier on?
There's been nobody that's really stood out for me, and you thought, oh, crikey, they're going to win the lot. They're possible Grand Slam contenders. Each team have got good things about them, and other teams have got bad things about them. As I said, we only watched the Belfast game on the TV here, but they were very, very impressive, and they almost won at a canter. They're a very offensively skilled team. As are Cardiff. Cardiff have built a roster for the Champions Hockey League. I know they're no longer involved in that now, but the quality of their roster is still there, and I'd expect them to be up there and in the mix at the business end of the season. Ironically, we've played Dundee twice at home this season already, And I felt that, they probably pushed us really hard and given us two very, very good games. It's a bit of a different Dundee lineup to, I think, the ones that Omar Pasha has previously recruited. I think that there's a bit more skill on that roster now, and they seem to have a bit more offensive punch on those forward lines. So, no standouts, no sort of, wow, that team are incredible. But I think that's largely down to the fact that, most teams have beaten other teams. So there are no sort of mental blocks really when it comes to playing another side. It's everyone can beat everyone on their night, and even Fife have sort of belatedly joined the party now and have started to win a few games. So I think it's going to be a very even and very competitive season, and I look forward to sort of seeing how Clan get on. You've got a big backlog of games that you've got to sort of bridge, and I suppose your fans will be hoping that your players stay healthy, because the biggest risk of playing lots of games in a condensed period of time is that players pick up muscular injuries, and it's just the fatigue, and you leave yourself susceptible to injuries creeping in, and you don't really want that when you've got a mountain of games that you need to catch up on everybody else in the league with.
Yeah. No, definitely, I agree with that. I'd say it's probably early doors for Clan for me to make much comment on the team until we really see them playing. But we're going to get the chance in December to see a number of games played, as you say. Just to finish on one thing, just want to talk about webcasts for a moment, because this is a Nottingham Panthers Clan thing for a number of seasons. I've always been an advocate that they should really be offering webcasts. I've noticed that Panthers have started to introduce more webcasts this season. What's your thoughts on that, Adam?
They have introduced a few. I think they're. I don't know the reasons why, but they've sort of pulled back on them recently, so that they're not quite as prominent as they were earlier on in the season. I mean, look, I'm a fan, and I've said that on numerous episodes of the Cats Whiskers on the podcast over the years, that I think it's always good to offer choice to fans, because not every fan can make every game, unfortunately. We all sort of have lives away from the sport, and we've all got things that are going on in our own personal life. So it's look, I understand the arguments for and against, to be honest, because if any of the Scottish teams were putting webcasts on of games that involve teams that were going up for, say, double or triple headers, then it might impact on the number of fans that decide to travel north with their team to go and watch those games. So I understand that there's a commercial aspect to not broadcasting webcasts, but I just think we're in 2021 now, and I think it's all about choice for the consumer and the fan. I shouldn't really call fans consumers. It's we're fans first and foremost, with consumers second. But I think anything that can be done to help give fans the option to catch a game that otherwise they might not be able to get to. Now, and we said right at the start of this that crowds aren't quite what they were, certainly at Nottingham pre-pandemic, and because that possibly is to do with nervousness of coming back into the arena with lots of people. So I think it's good to have the choice to have a webcast. I think if those that are nervous about coming back into arenas don't want to quite come back yet, then they can always plump for buying a webcast and following the team that way. But you look at other sports, and there's so much choice now to try and follow your teams. I mean, you see football teams, cricket have gone sort of onto an internet platform, and you can follow games there. So I mean, ice hockey needs to sort of jump on board with that, and there are some teams and organisations that have embraced webcasts really well. But I think Nottingham and Glasgow have been sort of slow to the party. Whether that changes over the course of this season, it might have a lot to do with the crowds. If the crowds stay lower, then it might be seen that webcasts aren't really a viable alternative, because they could be seen to be affecting the actual number of people that turn up to the games every night.
No, I appreciate that, and I've got similar views. It's a balancing act, I think, at the end of the day. But I'd just like to say, we're sort of running out of time, Adam. I really appreciate you coming on and having a chat about the game and the background about the Panthers, and be the best team win on Sunday, and hopefully catch up with you in Braehead when you're up for the game towards the beginning of December.
No, thank you, Callie. It's been nice to join you tonight and chat all things hockey and clan. And I'm sure I speak for many in saying that it's great to see Glasgow now, getting their season underway. And we very much look forward to coming up to pay you a visit in 2 or 3 weeks' time when we have our own triple header. So hopefully, we'll cross paths there, and might buy you a pint or two.
Thanks very much. Hopefully catch up then. Take care. Thank you.